It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are really on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. On this episode, we have the one and only Luna. She's on the other side, and she'll be talking about why clear messaging is the fastest path, not so much to profits, not so much to peace, but connecting with your ideal audience. And isn't that what you really want to do at the end of the day? So let me say hello to the one and only Luna. What's going on, Luna? Thanks for being on the show today. We appreciate you.
Hi. Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, just what a great show. You got such a vibe here. I'm excited to be on and connect with you and your audience.
Thank you so much. We're glad to have you here. And I will say, we'll just address the elephant in the room. The folks, they'll read your bio, okay? They'll see how famous you are and all the wonderful stuff you've done. And they're reading whatever the title says, why clear messaging is not working today. Let me just address what's on their mind. And here's for all the CEOs that are watching and all the entrepreneurs that are watching right now. The question is, the elephant is, why are entrepreneurs struggling today to have a clear message that they can get out to their audience? When, I mean, they got AI, they could like that, and AI will just write it for them. Why are people struggling these days? What's the big deal?
I like that you said there's so many tools around, so why are they having an issue? And I think actually part of it is the distraction. So having so many tools can be really distracting for people who aren't clear within themselves. And so my whole approach is through animus branding, having a relationship with your brand, and that the relationship informs the content. So kind of, not that I'm against AI at all, totally use it, have my clients use it well as a tool, as a resource. And I think if you have the foundation of a relationship with yourself, your motivation, your brand, what the brand as a living being, as a creation wants to express in the world, then that is actually guiding so much forward. And when you have marketers and Instagram people and podcasts and everybody telling you this is what you should do and this is what you should do, and if you just download this viral hooks reel and do this and do that, and I think actually so many of the tools are a big piece of why people are questioning themselves and creating doubt where there actually doesn't really need to be doubt, because it's their business. They should be more clear than anybody else.
Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to let her get away with it. She said animus branding. And I know some of you are saying, Shay, what in the LL Cool J does that even mean? Like, what is it? I didn't read her bio. I get you. I didn't get a chance to go Google her. So can you take a moment? I know I'm probably the only one that has this question, but can you take a moment and break down what is it analyst? Did I pronounce it correct? Animus?
Animist.
Animus
so this is a coined
marketing.
term.
What is it? What is it? And what's the backstory? Like, don't worry, we're getting to her backstory in a moment, okay? I know y'all want to know who is this woman, but what's the backstory behind it? What is it? And what's the backstory?
Yeah, so animus branding is a term that I coined. And animism is a whole school of thought and philosophy that really has the idea that everything has a soul. Like your water bottle, whatever it is, that everything is made up of elements and life, and it is living. You know, like Marie Kondo, they have that, does this thing bring you joy in your house? And that kind of thing. It's like, that's the concept, is that things are alive and living. And I think of your business and your brand as something that you birthed into being, that something, God, muse, creative potential, whatever it is, tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, you and me, I want to bring something into being with you, into form. Just like you would birth a child out of nothing into form in the world, you birth businesses, you create things. And so I believe that your brand is a personality, a being, it has a life, it has a voice, and that you're the messenger. You're the one stewarding it. And our job, just like parenting or anything that you create, like a book or a business or anything else that you might create, an art piece, that your job is to create the environment for which it can thrive. And when you're focused on your job of creating an environment for which your business, your brand, your clients can thrive, and that's your responsibility, I find that willingness overpowers any strategy. Because everyone can have a strategy and everyone can implement it and they're all going to get different results. But how they approach that strategy, the quality of connection with their message, their audience, their brand, themselves, is going to shape their results. So animism is the quality of seeing everything as living, and animist branding is a way of relating to your brand as a living being. Get curious with it, listen to it, ask it questions, see what it has to say.
I love how you said that. And don't worry, we'll get into her backstory. I'm going to ask her, who is she? We'll get to that. But you mentioned branding, and there's personal branding as you talked about as well. Can you take a moment, and again, I know we'll slow down and we'll speed up, and talk about why, for the person that's very experienced, does it come a time where their brand elevates or evolves, or how does a person know that there is time for their brand to evolve to another phase? I know it's a loaded question because many of you are different places in different spaces. So I'm going to ask the first to talk to the seasoned professional that might be wondering, wow, has my brand shifted? Has time shifted? I need to look at doing something different. And then we'll come to some of you who are just getting started. You're not new to life. I get it. You're not new to the work world, but maybe you're new to business and you want to have a personal brand. You want to get your company off and going. And you might want to know what's the one or two things she recommends. We'll come to you in a moment. But first, do you mind talking to the experienced folks out there? When do they know where it's time to maybe change the brand, or maybe it's elevated to something different? Again, a loaded question, so you might have to frame it for the audience.
Well, I love this, and I love that you're dissecting these different audiences. I have 3 audiences that I work with, and this is one of them. So there's the beginner, there's the seasoned corporate person who has success in corporate that's wanting to create a personal brand. They're over their career, but they want to take all their wisdom. And then there's the person who's been an entrepreneur or in business for a long time, and they want to rebrand. They want to refresh. So I'm hearing that you're asking about this third audience, and I love working with these people because they've been seasoned in business. A lot of my audience, so I do a lot of rebrands for people who I've been following for, when I got started, they were like the people that I looked up to. And then, 10 years later, they call me and they're like, I want you to do my rebrand. And I'm like, I love this. So these are people who outgrow it. And I like the analogy of like a wool sweater that you put in the wash. When it's kind of just like, oh, it's just a little too tight, it doesn't fit anymore. That's usually what they feel like, because they're evolving, they're maturing, they're growing, and a personal brand is so reflective. So even though I talked about animist branding, where your brand is like a separate being that you're in relationship with a personal brand, there's a lot more overlap because you're the face, you're being seen, just like podcast hosts like yourself. And so people are coming because they love you, they like you, they feel you, they like your vibe, they like your story. And so you're such a big part of it. And so if you've been in business a long time, I know that entrepreneurship is soul work. It tests you, it challenges you, you're growing, you're going to have to evolve. And if you're not, I don't know what you're doing, but as long as your profit and loss statement looks good to you, then that's all that matters. But for me, I'm here for the growth. I'm here. All the businesses I work with are service-based businesses, people who really care, want to make a contribution, that personal contribution that they want to give to the world. So for entrepreneurs who've been in business a long time, they know that feeling where, oh, this has worked. I picked this. This was my audience when I started, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and now I'm 45 to 50, and my audience, my website, my copy, my colors, my emails, all these things are like talking to someone from this place of who I was when I first started the business. And the brand is reflecting who I was then, especially for a personal brand. And so I find it is, in their own way, those types of clients who come to me, they're saying like, it just doesn't fit me anymore. It's not who I am today. I've grown and it needs to reflect who I am. And so I think that because we're creating content all the time on a daily basis, that kind of stuff updates, but it's the kind of foundational brand, the core, the website, the color story, that kind of thing that is usually what needs to update to match. And I always start with messaging and all the work that in all the branding work that I do, So it's amazing how you think, even though I'm creating new content, the message would be updated, but it's often not. And when we look underneath at who the business has become and what that growth is, their audience is usually reflecting that journey. And so the message is really speaking to what's happened in the last little bit of time. And if the business is older, they need to kind of refresh and update based on what's current.
I love that. Well said, by the way, and well positioned. I like how you talked to all three at the same time, which is really amazing. Take a moment, if you would, because you've so kind to jump right into it. And messaging is an important part, because I believe that if you're unable to speak to your target audience, then you probably can't convey how you're helping solve a problem, make their life or business better. But folks want to know about you now. Someone's in the kitchen right now. They're cooking and they're like, wow, I like what I'm hearing. It's making sense and sense. How can I say that? Making sense and sense. But I don't really know her backstory, Shay. Slow down. Take a moment. So we'll do that now. You know the question. Who are you? Although you jump right into it. And what's the backstory that led you to really focus on what you're focusing on now?
Ah, so many lives lived. Like, where do I begin? Particularly around this animus branding piece that's been developing and has become kind of my world is my mom. My mom and I, single mom, only child. So just the two of us. And she did everything, worked, provided, school, private school tuition. She just crushed it as a single mom. And she died when I was 13 and she was 38. And so I have like 13 years of these good and bad memories, but primarily good. And one of the things I remember the most is her quality of intentionality. Penmanship, how she wrapped a gift, everything in the house, having a home, and the way that she dressed herself and me, and cooking, and just the care that anything that she said yes to that she was going to do, she did 110%, and she did it beautifully and well, and didn't have a lot of like anxiousness or perfectionism around it, just gave really generously. And I felt like that quality of thoughtfulness and intentionality was a quality of generosity. And so after she passed, I went through my whole forgetfulness and pain and journey, addiction, trying to learn how to feel feelings, all the things throughout my teens and 20s. And that quality of intentionality was something that I never thought about, but I naturally carried forward myself. And I think of it as like a legacy piece. I think of it as our matrilineal thread that has trickled down, the wisdom that she's given me is this quality of generosity, care, intentionality, thoughtfulness that I really try to bring into every single thing I do. And so later on in life, when I kind of was reflecting on my story, my brand story, how this animism came to be, and this phrase was coined, I really just all of that beautiful intentionality that I grew up with, and care and preciseness and execution with such beauty really came to me later. It wasn't something that I was tracking the whole time, like I'm doing this, but I realized that I had carried it forward, and it made me think of her, and it made me think of this beautiful legacy piece. And a huge part of my audience are women entrepreneurs who are providing for themselves, their families, contributing to their household income in a big way. And so it just felt like this really beautiful trickle effect legacy piece that has impacted me in great ways. And yeah, I've lost myself a lot of times, but I feel like the woman I've become is very much in part to that particular loss that I experienced young, and it's shaped me in ways that I literally have no idea who I would be if she was here. So despite it being challenging and hard at different times in my life, it's also what's made me who I am, which I love who I've turned out to be.
Well, thanks for being so personal. Thanks for sharing something near and dear to your heart. We appreciate that. Well said, by the way. And it leads me to another segment, and we'll get into in a moment, a segment we have here called Today's My January 1st. But I want to touch on something that I think is very important that you do, which is around attraction brand. And oftentimes, one of the things my mentor taught me is don't chase the money, add value, and the money will chase you. But you've kind of framed it in two words and said attraction brand, that it is a way to attract folks who are in line, are in harmony with your mission, goals, and objectives. So take a moment, if you will, talk about just attraction brand. What is it and why it's needed now more than ever before? Like where we are in today's world is needed. Attraction brand. What is it? And the backstory, please.
Yeah, an attraction brand is just a brand that is magnetizing clients, income, experiences, collaborations, all of that. And I think a lot of it is really about creating ease. And there's so much output. Entrepreneurs are wearing so many hats. There's things that we obviously outsource if we are able to, but making marketing easier, basically. And so building an attraction brand is a strategic way to have your business, have your brand doing the work for you. Having your message. So in a simple example is, there's so many ways this could look, but a simple example is, does your sales page pre-qualify people? Are you getting on the phone with people who aren't a fit? That means that if you're answering questions that are anything but, oh, I'm like 90% yes, or I just have this little question to ask, then your messaging could be doing a lot more work for you. And your brand could be doing a lot more work for you on the front end to prevent sales calls and inquiries that are not aligned. Because that's energy efficiency is like number one priority in my business and my clients' world is everything that we're doing energy efficient? Is it setting us up for success and less effort? And so marketing is a lot of times, I think we think of it as like this push out of ads and putting things out and talking and this like direction that's outward. And I like to think of it as much more of an inward thing. So I think a lot of it is personality, and whether or not that's your personality, the brand has a personality of its own. You're creating that, you're crafting it. How you talk at your dinner table might be how different than the voice that you use on your podcast, for example. That's part of your brand. So pre-qualifying leads is a huge part of what I would say attraction brand is doing. It's doing the work for you so that you're doing less legwork on the back end.
I love it, by the way. And it's a great segue, what you're doing, into a segment we have here called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks who are tuned in every night, we're about to do it at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You might even wait for this magical moment when we say today is my January 1st. In fact, you can go and say those words. Today is my January 1st. And for everyone else who's tuned in for the very first time, today is my January 1st is our personal mantra here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny the past is back there, the past really no longer equals the future. And so my question for Luma on the other side is twofold. Number one, just when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what even goes through your mind? And number two, where was another time where there was a setback in your life? Maybe it's been perfect in your business or a challenge. And how were you able to bounce back from it?
Today's my January 1st. I love this. I wake up with that energy every day. I'm like eternal optimist. I mean, not to say I don't have my moody bad days, but I wake up and I'm like, okay, new day. Like, let's do it. And so it's that feeling of the morning. I was talking about, I'm a bit of a biohacker. And this morning when I woke up, I was saying, I wish we had automated blinds that get dark and block everything out and then open right before the sunrise, like starting to let the light in. And it's that feeling of when the blinds open, and that's what it makes me think of. Yeah.
I love it, by the way. And what was your biggest challenge you said again?
Oh, the challenge. Oh,
yeah.
I would say
and now, if your life's been perfect, just say my life's been perfect. Other than, would you mind? Maybe your business has been perfect, life's been perfect. Was there any other time there was a setback for you?
Yeah, I got canceled in 2020, and
no.
Yeah, and it it shifted my business a lot. It shifted trajectory, and I could say that that trajectory was kind of already changing, and this kind of just moved me along. But it was a very psychologically disruptive, confusing time. And then also just like watching other people, how they responded to it was very interesting. And I learned so much from it. And I'm not necessarily grateful, but it happened. And I learned from it. And I chose to learn from it. And I chose not to let it take on too much power over me. And I think a lot of people probably wouldn't be bringing this up because they don't want, people Googling and doing other things. But I just have, I've gotten over it. And I feel like I learned to take things not so personally, especially with a personal brand. Like, you're going to create disruption. Not everyone's going to like what you're saying or how you're saying it. And people are always going to have opinions, and that's just what it is. And I'm just here to mind my own business and not really get too caught up in what everybody else is doing, not spending time scrolling, looking at everybody else's business and lives and what they're doing. And just I got a lot of beautiful things happening in my life, and just really stay focused on what I'm here to do and be of service and trust that the right people align and find it in the perfect way. And so learned a lot.
Well said. And, one of my favorite questions to ask, and again, I like that you're so authentic, by the way, when we have time, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? Now, I'll frame it for the audience just so they're kind of clear that you've read more books than you can remember these days, I'm sure, had countless mentors along this journey of life, watching videos. Like 10,000 hours, what a joke. You can do that on the weekend, scrolling these days. But if you had to step back and say, here's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given, this helped you, that you want to pass to the audience, what would it be and why?
Well, I have this phrase that always comes to mind, but it's not really like advice that someone gave me. My uncle,
That's cool.
When my mom passed away, I lived with my aunt and uncle when I was a child, 13, and my uncle is like the in-law, like my aunt is my blood relative, and he's just a gem. I've learned so much from this man. He was so generous with his life and his home to take me in at that time, and upheaval their whole lives, to go from having no kids to having a teenager whose mom just died. It was like a lot for them. And he's just such a good read of people. I think that he's really shown me how to cultivate a quality of discernment, and how to read people, and how to really trust my gut and intuition on how to read people. And so I think the advice would be, trust your gut on alignment. If you get that nudge that something's off or something could be a magical thing, they can both feel scary. And sometimes that feeling of that gut feeling of, whoa, this could be big, can be scary in a way that it keeps us from it. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not. But I think that there's a subtle quality of discernment versus fear. And discernment is something I think we should really follow and trust within ourselves. So I'd say trust your gut, especially on reading people.
What does success look like for you these days?
Oh, success looks like easy, freedom, schedule, spaciousness, time to spend with family and friends, and know that my monthly recurring revenue has got us covered, and everything else is bonus cash. And I'm grateful for all the new things that come in all the time, because I built an attraction brand and just keep coming. And yeah, my success to me looks like spaciousness, to spend time with the people I love more than anything.
I love it. My reoccurring revenue just covers everything, and everything else is part of the lifestyle. That's the Shay Brown remix version, but I'm part of that LL Cool J family, so we remix version, everything. But I love it though. I love it. That was really good. I
want to know if under the table you have one pant leg half up. Remember, he used to just do one leg down and one half up.
Yes.
I loved that.
Yes. This is so cool. Now, as we come down on the stretch, when you hear the word If you're speaking to someone now who's going through some challenging times, we're coming down to home stretch, ladies. I'm just curious. And the person out there saying, man, I've been going through some tough times. What would you share with them? Like, what words of encouragement? If you had a minute to say, you know what, here's something that I hold near and dear to me. I don't know. Here's an affirmation. Here's a philosophy that I would share with some to encourage them. And these are very challenging times, no matter where you live or what you believe and so forth. For some folks, they really are. What would you say to that entrepreneur, to that single mom, that single dad, that person that maybe been laid off right now? And I'm not saying the world's doom and gloom, so please don't send me that. But I'm just curious, what would you say to that person right now that's watching?
I think that we're all very resourceful, whether it's attention or time. It doesn't have to be resources like financial resources, but positive mindset. We can all do hard things. Things are hard. Things are always going to be hard in some way at some point in time in our lives, but we can do hard things. And I think that mentality of remembering that and leaning into that when we forget it most is important, and surrounding yourself with people who remind you and not bring that down further and are like kick you when you're down or make you feel worse because you didn't have the success that you thought you might have by this point. So I think that just remembering how resourceful, there's always something that we can tap into that's a resource, whether it's kindness or outsourcing or supporting somebody else by but giving things attention. I've talked about getting curious with your brand. That quality of curiosity is a resource that we're spending, and we're making time and just getting curious, whether we're doing that with a person, an employee, contractor, peer, investor, these kinds of conversations that we're having. We're getting curious with one another, and I think that that's such a valuable resource. So there's always something that we can tap into that's there as a resource for us to find our way out of whatever challenges are there.
Yeah, I think they've got a master class in messaging, by the way, which is very, very important. I know that's very important to you, and I'll give that as your closing business question that I have, and then we'll get them how people can connect with you and all that stuff. But take a moment and talk about just the power of messaging in general. I mean, one of the philosophies we have is that we believe your words can make you rich, right? But messaging is the core underline of what everything you talk about. The whole foundation is around messaging. So why is it important for anyone that's listening right now, for anyone that's hearing this message, whether you're watching live or you got a hold of the replay in some vault or some file or a podcast right now? Why is messaging the centerpiece for the entire business?
I've answered this in so many ways, and it's one of the things that comes up on podcasts all the time. But the thing that's coming up right in this moment that I'm just going to trust and follow is that the words voice and the word voice and the word vocation actually have the same Latin root, vox, V-O-X, which is to like speak something into existence, to call. No, it's to call. Or your calling, your vocation is your calling, your voice is to call. And I love how the etymology of these words is related, because I think that that's so much of what our entrepreneurial journeys are. They're answering our calling. And if your voice isn't a huge part of answering the calling, then they're literally like the same root where they're asking us to have that connection between voice and vocation. So to me, messaging it's the heartbeat. It's the thing. When I do messaging, there's 4 parts that I go through with clients, and in my courses it's kind of set up this way. And it's foundations, which is like your values, your mission, your motivation, your founder's bio, all this kind of like foundational stuff. Then it's personality, archetypes, expression, tone, point of view. Then it's all about the audience, demo and psychographics. And then the 4th part, I always make this little, if you can't see this, it's like a sideways figure 8, like a little kind of infinity. But I always think of the 4th part of messaging, which is storytelling, as the thing that connects the brand and the audience and weaves it together. And so your message is what is this brand entity can be. You can create a website, an Instagram page, all these things. You can just be, you can exist. But if you don't have an audience and you don't have people, buyers and clients and customers, there's actually no business. It's just a front. It's a brand. And there's a lot of those out there. There's people who have whole presentations as coaches and don't have clients. So there's this reflection of voice and vocation. I kind of jumped there and then I lost my whole thing.
Yeah, you were doing a good job talking about messaging and how it all weaves together in this harmonious
Yeah, the
figure
storytelling piece.
eight.
If you don't have, thank you so much. If you don't have the story that's weaving the brand together, it's you don't get the business. You don't get, like, there's a whole service element. There's a problem to solve, and like, who's got the problem? The message is what weaves that together and what allows the people to find you, to trust you, that your product, that your service can solve their problem in a really simple, easy way. They don't want bells and whistles and bonuses and how many things you're adding to the product. Like, the value is actually in how clear you are and how clearly you can articulate it, not how much stuff you can add to it. And I think people often mistake value as like more for less. And to me, I think that the people who are purchase ready, the type of buyers that I want in my business, that they're actually looking for the most simple, easy, fastest solution. And that is really, they want to know that you trust yourself to provide the solution. And when they feel that you as a brand or the service provider undoubtedly knows that you're capable of delivering, that's when the sale happens like that. Not because you added like extra stuff.
I love it. As we come down the home stretch, a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to work with these days, if any? I'm not sure if your firm is booked. And last, how can folks connect with you? Like, I love what I'm hearing, Shay. I want to stay in this conversation. What does she offer? Where do I go? What's the website? Please go ahead and speak to the audience now.
Yeah, I work with primarily service-based, heartfelt, personal brands, entrepreneurs who have something powerful that they want to share, often service-based businesses, and we are booked up until through March, but we have a beautiful wait list and would love to connect with you, whether that's messaging, business strategy, branding, website development, all of that stuff. I have a brand studio called Career Creative. That's what we do there. That's a separate company. And then my personal brands, I do leadership mentoring. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram and my website. My website's lunaloveleadership.com, and I'm Luna Battalia on Instagram. And yeah, if you loved this and you want to dive into building an attraction brand and with a foundation of messaging, I have a course called Messenger, and I'd love to offer your audience 10% off the course with the code HAPPY. And they can get that at Luna Leadership. You'll probably put the link in the show notes.
We'll put the link down there for sure. We'll also see it for those folks that are watching on the podcast, or some of you are watching on YouTube or Roku. You have access to it as well. Let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And you give us the most precious resource you have, which is your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, because, well, without you, we don't have a show, right? So I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you're doing really, really well and you're going to that next level of success, congratulations, or you've been hit with the punch you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, I'm out. Peace, everybody. We'll see you all on the other side. God bless and keep doing God's work. Peace.